For centuries, Tantric traditions have used symbols like yantras and mandalas as tools for meditation and focus. In modern wellness culture, these symbols are often said to raise frequency or change vibration. But what does that really mean? In science, frequency has a very specific definition. In spiritual language, it's often used very differently. So today, we're not here to believe or debunk, but to examine. Can tantric symbology actually change frequency in a scientific sense? Or is something else happening, something psychological, cultural, or symbolic? To answer that, we'll look at physics, neuroscience, psychology, and history and clearly separate what science can measure from what humans experience subjectively. What is frequency? Its scientific meaning. In physics, frequency means the number of times something oscillates per second, measured in hertz. Sound has frequency. Light has frequency. Radio waves have frequency. These are measurable, testable, and consistent. Physics textbooks like Fundamentals of Physics describe frequency as a property of waves, whether they travel through air, space, or electrical systems. NASA and OpenStax physics materials show how frequency determines pitch in sound and color in light. Importantly, frequency in science is not a feeling, emotion, or state of mind. It's a physical measurement. So when we ask whether a symbol changes frequency, we first need to ask, which frequency exactly? Sound, light, electromagnetic waves. If it's not physically measurable, science uses a different category. What are tantric symbols historically? Tantric symbols like yantras and mandalas come from ancient Indian tradition or Sanatana Dharma. Scholars such as Georg Feuerstein and Gavin Flood describe yantras as geometric-focused tools, not energy machines. They were designed to hold attention, reduce distraction, guide meditation, represent philosophical ideas visually. Their power lies in structure, repetition, and symmetry. Modern cognitive research and academic texts describe these symbols as transformative and ritual tools, devices that emit physical energy. Practitioners believed yantras emitted measurable frequencies like sound or light waves. Their purpose was internal and external, like in the law of attraction. So let's discuss neural plasticity in detail. Visualization activates sensory and emotional networks. Tantric practice often involves detailed visualization, emotional engagement, embodied imagination. The brain responds to vivid imagery similarly to real perception. This recruits visual cortex, limbic system, which is emotion, insula interroception, and hippocampus, which is memory consolidation. When repeatedly practiced, these networks reorganize and strengthen.
Yes, Tantric symbology can influence neural plasticity, but not in a mystical, symbol alone rewires the brain way. The effects come through attention, emotion, repetition, visualization, all of which are powerful drivers of neuroplastic change. Here's how it works neurologically. 1. Focused attention rewire circuits. Tantric symbols such as yantras, mandalas, deity imagery, Via mantras, are designed to capture sustained attention, engage visual spatial processing, induce meditative absorption. Sustained focused attention strengthens prefrontal cortex, executive control, anterior cingulate cortex, attention regulation, parietal networks, spatial awareness. Repeated activation strengthens synaptic pathways, that's plasticity.
Meaning and symbolism engage deep cognitive networks. Symbols work because they encode layered meaning, activate archetypal imagery, trigger emotional and autobiographical trauma memory networks. When a symbol carries deep personal meaning, it strengthens neural binding between emotion and cognition, associative learning pathways, narrative identity networks. This is experience-dependent plasticity. State right arrow trait shift. Repeated entry into meditative states via tantric symbology can produce trait-level changes. Increased gray matter density observed in meditation research. Reduced stress reactivity. Enhanced attentional stability. Altered self-perception networks. The plasticity is not from the symbol alone, it's from repeated, structured cognitive emotional engagement with the symbol. Important. There is scientific evidence that tantric symbols have inherent neurological power independent of practice. The effect comes from repetition, attention, emotional salience, physiological regulation. In neuroscience terms, tantric symbology is a structured attentional and affective training system. Precisely put, there is scientific evidence showing neural changes associated with tantric and related symbolism practices. What's important is recognizing these transformative changes in the consciousness. What changes neural plasticity from tantric practices? Evidence that specific symbols themselves have unique intrinsic neural effects, and 1L is supported by research. Studies on long-term tantric and vajrayana practitioners who use mantra meditation, deity visualization, and complex ritual meditation show structural changes. Increased cortical thickness, prefrontal cortex insula. Hippocampal volume changes. Altered white matter integrity. Reduced age-related cortical thinning in long-term meditators. Functional changes noted are altered gamma synchrony, notably in advanced practitioners. Reduced amygdala reactivity. Changes in default mode network activity. Enhanced attentional control networks. Some research specifically on deity yoga visualization, a tantric practice, shows strong activation of visual association cortex. Engagement of self-representation networks. Increased neural flexibility between self-referential and task-positive networks. There are also EEG studies showing mantra recitation produces distinct rhythmic entrainment patterns. So yes, we do have evidence of measurable neural reorganization linked to these practices. The specific symbolic content, e.g., a particular yantra geometry, versus the cognitive processes used: attention, repetition, visualization, emotional salience, is the primary driver of the plasticity. Most current neuroscience does not negate the possibility that symbolic structure itself shapes how those mechanisms engage. In other words, the brain clearly changes. The causal specificity of particular tantric symbols is still being investigated. Gamma synchrony findings in Sanatana Tantric adepts. Symbolism in geometric sequences is a common practice in all the cultures. More older examples still in practice are Yantras. Let's take Gayatri Yantra specifically and look at it through a neuroplasticity lens without reducing it to generic meditation. The Gayatri Yantra typically contains central Bindu point, interlocking triangles Shakti Shiva polarity, lotus petals, concentric geometric containment, often used with Gayatri mantra recitation. This is not random geometry, it is layered symbolic architecture. How Gayatri Yantra can drive neuroplasticity. 1. Central Bindu right arrow attentional compression. Sustained focus on the Bindu trains. Foveal visual fixation. Dorsal attention network. Frontoparietal control. Long-term effect. Strengthened networks. Symmetry and fractal geometry, right arrow visual cortex ray organization. Highly symmetrical, recursive geometry engages. V1, V4 visual processing. Parietal spatial integration regions. Pattern detection circuits. Repeated exposure to structured symmetry can increase perceptual sensitivity, improve pattern discrimination, refine spatial cognition pathways. There's research showing that complex geometric meditation alters visual evoked potentials. Layered symbolism induces associative network strengthening. Gayatri is not just a shape, it carries solar imagery, knowledge as light symbolism, sacred sound pairing, cultural emotional meaning. When symbol and light with mantra are practiced together, you co-activate semantic memory networks, emotional salient systems, auditory cortex, visual cortex, motor cortex, autonomic regulation. Repeated co-activation strengthens cross-network connectivity. That is termed as Hebbian plasticity. Neurons that fire together wire together. Mantra and yantra coupling creates multimodal synchronization. When Gayatri mantra is recited while gazing at the yantra, auditory rhythmic entrainment occurs. Visual steady-state attention stabilizes. Breath regulates vagal tone. Gamma synchrony can increase in advanced practitioners. Multimodal integration strengthens. Thalamocortical coordination. Default mode regulation. Self-referential processing shift. This is deeper than generic mindfulness, it's structured cognitive engagement. Elaborate methods, tested and refined, can so do you feel symbols change external reality via inner resonance. Across centuries have been transmitted by our ancestors to comprehend nature and its energy in all dimensions. These approaches emerged from systematic observation, experimentation, and philosophical inquiry, forming integrated knowledge systems that bridge the physical, mental, and experiential realms. Their endurance highlights a legacy of wisdom grounded in balance, sustainability, and respect for natural order. Our ancestors refined and passed on elaborate methods for understanding nature and its energy in all its dimensions. Thank you for watching. This is a part of our larger research on Oriental linguistic patterns. If you consider it interesting, comment and subscribe.